From working with Bo Jackson to prepping Michael Jordan for a career in baseball to a World Series title in 2005, this is the Inside Athletic Training Podcast with special guest and White Sox legendary athletic trainer, Herm Schneider. Enjoy the show. All right, Herm, welcome to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. Very excited to have you on and share all things about your career with the White Sox and longtime member of PBATS and everything that you have contributed to athletic training. To get started, share with our listeners who may not be familiar with your career a bit about you, where you grew up, how you got into athletic training, and kind of a little bit of background.
Sounds great. I'm Herm Schneider. I was the athletic trainer for the Chicago White Sox for 47 years. And I had a 10-year stint with the Yankees prior to that, 7 in the minor leagues, 3 in the major leagues with them. Blessed with being able to be in 3 World Series with the Yankees, 76, 77, and 78. We lost the 76 one, but we won both the 77 and 78 against the Dodgers. And then as the assistant trainer for the Yankees under Gene Monahan, who is my mentor, who I love dearly, I moved on. I had an opportunity to move to the Chicago White Sox and started my illustrious career there and spent most of my life there, 47 years. And now I live in the great state of Florida.
Yeah, definitely a lot to touch on in terms of success for your career. You mentioned Gene Monahan. I think Gino's been a mentor to so many people in athletic training, a legend in New York, World Series champion multiple times. Talk about that time coming up with him as your mentor and kind of what he means to you as an athletic trainer.
Well, I was in the minor leagues with the Yankees for quite a while and got to know Gino through the lower minor leagues. And as I grew through the minor leagues into Double-A in West Haven, Connecticut, and then I went to Syracuse for 4 years and spent 4 years there. And then Gino brought me into Major League camp with the Yankees for those 4 years. So I got a good feel for what, Major League athletic training was all about. And Dr. Gaynor, who was the team physician for the Yankees at the time, also became a mentor to me. And, of course, Gino took me under his wing and treated me very well. I was his first athletic training assistant. So I kind of set a bit of history there, being the first assistant athletic trainer in baseball. I know a lot of people can't understand that now in baseball because they've got 6 assistant trainers, but I was actually the first assistant trainer in Major League Baseball history. And thanks to Gene Monahan, Gene Michael, who was the general manager, and of course the boss, George Steinbrenner, who rubber stamped it for everybody. But Gino and Gene Michael went to bat for me, and I was able to do that. I did have an opportunity when I was in Syracuse to go, actually, let me back step a little bit. Pat Gillick, who was my boss with the Yankees at the time in the minor leagues, and a fellow by the name of Elliot Wally ran the minor leagues for the Yankees, and they left. Both of them left to start up the new franchise, the Toronto Blue Jays. And Pat had brought me into Toronto during the winter months to kind of start setting that up a little bit. And I spent 2 weeks in Toronto, and they took me over to Manpower to try to get some immigration rights there, and they turned me down. So my opportunity to be the head trainer for the Blue Jays in expansion fell through the cracks because of immigration reasons. So I ended up going back to the Yankees and back to Syracuse. And fortunately, that position had not been filled yet, and I was able to get that back. But that year, they brought me up to New York at the end of the year in 1976. And then in 1977, they brought me up to New York.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting and kind of segues into what I was hoping to hear from you a bit about. You talked about the state of athletic training back then. You were the first ever assistant athletic trainer. And you also kept a smaller staff in Chicago for many years as a head athletic trainer there. Talk about the state of the profession of athletic training in 1976 through 1979 when you were, breaking into the game. As you mentioned, we know it's totally different now. There's sometimes 4, 5, 6 assistant athletic trainers at the major league level. What was it like back then, and how do you kind of step back and even take in kind of everything that you're seeing now?
Well, if you're talking about the major leagues, when I came over to the White Sox, actually for the first 2 or 3 years, I can't remember, Sam, but I was by myself. I had to do everything by myself for 3 years. And, you work hard, your days are very long and you work hard, but you get the job done, you really do. You find a way to make it happen and make it happen successfully, because you are trying to win ball games even in 1976 or 77 or 78, 79 when I went over to the White Sox by myself. We had the job to win ball games, and I was there by myself. So, and then I think I was there 2 years. I got there in 79. I think in 1980, they finally got me an assistant to help me out. And that was like pulling teeth to get to spend the money on that, because they were not really dishing out the money very well. But I did get an assistant, a fellow by the name of Irv Fountain, where I'm not sure, can't remember where he came. I think he came from New Hampshire. So I had him for a few years. And then when he left, I got Mark Anderson, who was my assistant for a long time. And he left and became my financial guy, because he went into finance. And then I got Brian Ball through the rest of my career there.
Yeah.
But it was only 2 of us for all those years.
Right, and that's kind of what's changed so much, and I'm sure you've been able to sit back and observe, is just the growth of the profession. And you were obviously a pioneer as the first ever major league assistant athletic trainer, which is just a crazy statement to even hear. Such a legendary position, and has changed the game for so many of your younger colleagues and new PBATS members. When you walked into the White Sox training room, I think you mentioned in an article I read that the program was kind of struggling and you had a lot to change. What did you walk into, and what was your goal when you got to Chicago?
Well, when I got to Chicago, and the training room was basically the size of a closet, and it was in really kind of bad shape. I had to change the look of it. And, I was brought up in the Yankee way of doing things, because Gene, taught me the Yankee way. And I just started to implement things in that small little training room that was clean and neat, and everything was organized. Got it cleaned up. It was really a disaster. And I really didn't have a doctor's office or an office at all. And actually, there was some space behind the training room under the stands. And I went to Bill Veck and I said, any chance of making that into an office? And you know what he told me? He said, if you can do it, you can get it, but we're not getting any contractors to do it. So actually, Glenn Rosenbaum and myself, we literally built an office under the stands. Wow. He was pretty talented guy, and we formed a a floor and poured concrete ourselves, and we put up the walls and put up some electric, and we created an office. But it was literally he and I were the contractors to have to do it. So that just tells you what it was like back then.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't think many head athletic trainers in today's game are building their own offices, to say the least. But you know, Herm, Chicago obviously meant a lot to you, the White Sox organization. 4+ decades with one organization is unheard of in any sport today, let alone professional baseball. Talk about what the city of Chicago means to you, the South Side, that White Sox uniform. I mean, you spent your whole life there, started a family there. What does it mean to you now, you know, when you go back, and how do you feel about the city of Chicago?
I love the city of Chicago. It's a part of me, and it always will be. There's wonderful people there. The South Side gets a bad rap. You know, there are some issues there, but there's issues everywhere. And I think the South Side just gets a bad rap with the media. And but I love the South Side. I mean, I have a lot of different establishments that I went to for different things, pharmacy and you know, dry cleaning, whatever. I mean, I have a lot of friends there, and the city of Chicago itself is just an absolutely beautiful city with all the high skyscrapers on one side of Lakeshore Drive, and on the other side of Lakeshore Drive, you have a beach. You know, I mean, there's really no city like that in the country, and it's a fabulous place. I think that speaks for itself. When every team comes into town, every team brings their family there because they want the families to enjoy Chicago. So that just kind of speaks for itself what kind of city it is.
Absolutely. I think when we ask a lot of PBATS members their favorite city to visit on the road, I think maybe 90% of them say Chicago, and there's no surprise as to why, as you mentioned there. Well, Herm, you know, 2005 was an awesome year for you. World Series championship, first one since, I believe, 1917, and then previously 1906 for the White Sox. So a long time coming. You had already been there for decades. Talk about that 2005 season, what it meant to you professionally, personally, and just to be a part of that World Series championship in 05.
Well, I mean, it was like a fantasy come true, a dream come true. We started the season, and we played some good baseball. We were in first place, and we never left first place the entire year. We were in first place from start to finish, and we played some great baseball all year long. We did start to dip towards the end of the year, and it became real exciting because Cleveland was on our tails, and we had a little bit of a dip in the season, and we were struggling there a little bit, and then all of a sudden we won a game in Cleveland, and then all of a sudden, oh, look out, the White Sox were on a roll, and we went into the postseason. And I think in the postseason, we used one reliever the entire postseason. You know, our starters, which you don't see today, all went complete games, all four of them. So, and I don't think the White Sox get enough credit for that as well. You know, you hear about different wonderful things that happen in baseball and all that, but you take a look at our pitching staff, which stayed healthy. And I mean, I don't pat myself on the back for that, but I certainly had something to do with that, you know. But, you know, you don't see starting pitchers complete games, especially 4 in a row, and actually go into a World Series. So we ended up in the postseason 11-1. We won 11 games and lost one game to the Anaheim Angels. So it was wonderful. The stars were all lined up for us, and we took charge, and we had a wonderful bunch of guys. And you always hear that chemistry is good, but chemistry is only good when you win. You don't hear a team that finishes in last place come out and say that the chemistry was good. So our chemistry was good, but we also won a lot of games that year, and we won a lot of postseasons, and we won the World Series. And the parade down Michigan Avenue in Chicago, there's nothing like it's breathtaking. There's nothing like it. I don't know if you came up to experience that at all, but if you didn't, you missed out. So but it was wonderful.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, definitely well deserved by you and the athletic training staff and everyone that put in so much hard work to achieve that. And being in Chicago for so many years, Herm, just the players you spent time with, many of them who have their numbers retired at the stadium, Harold Baines, Paul Konerko, Mark Burley, who was a part of that championship team, Bo Jackson, Jim Tomei, so many guys that you touched throughout their careers. What was it like working with and being a part of so many Hall of Fame careers like that, and kind of getting to make sure those guys were on the field to accomplish so much? And did you have any guys who you still remain close with today?
Oh, I still am fairly close with quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But working with those guys was an actual honor and a privilege on my part, and there was a total respect that I gave them, but they also gave me the respect also. And
Sure.
They listened, and when they had an issue, they came to me, and we talked about it and came up with a game plan to get them feeling better, and found a way always to keep them on the field. You don't get into World Series if you're on the disabled list all the time.
Sure.
You have to be on the field. You have to play. So I think, Sam, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not thinking about, but I think I might have almost 14 guys that I had that are in the Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
So,
that's amazing.
Catchers, Carlton Fisk, when you get a catcher to go in the Hall of Fame, you've done something, because they get banged up quite a bit. So
yeah. And throughout your time, Herm, with so many of these Hall of Famers and just legendary names, were there any things that were the most challenging in terms of return to play, rehab? I know you worked with Bo Jackson during a difficult situation. Harold Baines had such a long, illustrious career. I'm sure there was things you ran into. Were there any, most challenging cases in terms of getting people back on the field after injury?
Well, Bo was the most unique one, because I think, we acquired him with a bad hip, of course, and we tried to get him back to play with a bad hip, Sam, and it failed. So we decided that for his quality of life, that we would get him taken care of with a hip replacement. Playing was an option, but quality of life was the primary thing. But after he got his hip, he and I chatted, and he said he wanted to try to play baseball again. And I said, well, if you're willing to try, then I'm willing to help you, And we took a year and actually got him back to playing, Sam, with an artificial hip. He actually played. I don't think anybody else really can say that, in any sport. I don't think. You would know that better than I would, but I don't think any player in baseball has played with an artificial joint. So, getting Michael Jordan ready to play baseball was an interesting task.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that story real quick. We were at our winter meetings in Las Vegas, and Jerry Reinsdorf calls me to the side after the meeting, and he says, Herm, can I talk to you? And I said, absolutely. So I thought maybe he's going to give me a raise, but that was not what it was. So he said, I want you to do me a favor. I said, well, sure, anything you want. He said, I want you to get Michael Jordan ready to play baseball this spring. I looked at him kind of funny, and I said, are you kidding? Are you serious? He said, I'm absolutely serious. he's out of basketball, and his father wanted him to try to play baseball. And he came to me and asked me if he could play, and I told him yes. And I had the opportunity to do that because I own the Bulls and I own the White Sox, and I would like for you to get them ready. And I said, oh, for sure. I mean, I was like dumbfounded at the time. You can just imagine that,
Right.
And I knew Michael because being with the White Sox and the Bulls, there was some interaction between the two teams, and we were friendly with each other, but not to the point of that. And he said, "Here's Michael's cell number. Give him a call and set something up right after Thanksgiving." So I called him and I said, he was expecting my call. But I said, "Well, we got to get to work here." He said, "We sure do." So I said, "Let's start Friday after Thanksgiving." And I said, "Here's what I want you to do." He said, "I want you to come to the ballpark. When you get about 5 minutes away, give me a call and I'll open up the TV door, roll-up doors, which were big doors, which was right across from the training room. And I'll open them up and you pull right in, and I'll close the door right behind you so nobody will see you." So we did that for the entire winter, Sam. Just that, and we got them. We started not necessarily weight training, but we started to work on his shoulder for shoulder strength. Was working on hand strength because he was going to need hand strength for baseball. It was totally different. He was full bore, Sam. I mean, Michael doesn't do anything halfway. He's all in, and we started to throw, and I actually had to really tether him back with his throwing because he wanted to start throwing long, and he hadn't even picked up a baseball yet. So it was, I had to really pull the reins in on Michael, and and he let me pull him in, because he knew that I was looking out for his best interest. Right. And we got him ready to do some stuff. Now this is in the dead of winter. So we went over to Illinois Institute of Technology, which is right down the street, and they had a huge gym. So he was swinging in the cages at the ballpark, and I got Billy Melton, who has passed away since, to help him with some swinging, to learn how to swing, what to look for, how to do things. That was out of my realm. I mean, I could help him with getting ready to do those things, but I wasn't going to interfere with actually the act of hitting or a lot of throwing. I could help him with his throwing and all that. So we did that. And then we went over to IIT, and Billy Melton and the crew started to hit him some balls up in the air so he could learn how to go back on a ball. And so we did a lot of drills, but they were all inside, on a gym floor and all that. I mean, it was quite an experience. And then it was time for spring training, and we were getting ready to go to spring training, and myself and the equipment guys, and I think it was probably Brian, I guess. We were all going to Florida, and Michael said, "You're going with me on my private plane, so you don't have to make any reservations. We're all going to go together." So we all went to Waukegan, where he had his Jumpman plane, and we flew to Sarasota on his plane, and we started the outside drills. I had a couple of coaches there that were helping me, and we continued with keeping his shoulder strong and his elbows. And he went through spring training without any issues. Treated all the players. I mean, once the word got out, for the longest time, the word was not out for the entire winter. And as soon as the word got out, it was, as you can imagine, a 3-ring circus.
Right.
And but once we got to IIT, there were too many eyes out there, and the word got out. So all these media people started to come, and cameras, and so it became a circus, as you can just imagine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. It's such an interesting story and such an odd kind of task for an athletic trainer to say, hey, get the greatest basketball player in the world ready to play baseball. I'm sure you were quite shocked when you heard that, but what was it like keeping that secret throughout the winter? I know you talked about hiding through certain doors but what was it like kind of being on the inside knowing that Michael Jordan, world famous athlete, was about to play baseball for the White Sox?
It was pretty amazing. I mean, I was wondering kind of why he wanted to do that,
Yeah.
and I asked him, and he said that, in high school, he said, I tried to make the basketball team in high school, and I didn't they wouldn't take me. He said, so I ended up playing a little bit of baseball, and I got to love baseball, and his father loved baseball, and he promised his dad that he was going to pursue baseball in his life, and he followed through on his promise to his father, and I respect that of him, and I wanted to help him of it, and it was interesting. I had some input, a little bit of input. It was kind of ironic. They were in Chicago. They have the statue of Michael. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So that statue was being done while he was playing baseball. So the fella that was doing the statue came to the training room and showed him some mock-ups of what the statue could look like. And Michael and I sat there and we kind of peeled through it a little bit. And he said, "Which one do you like, Herm?" And I said, "Well, I like this one here, He said, "I kind of like that one too." So that's the one we're going with. And that was the Jumpman, the one with the tongue.
Yeah.
So my life has been so blessed, Sam. It's hard to say how blessed I've been. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Obviously you've had great memories and worked with so many players, but that's got to be a highlight working with Michael Jordan on the baseball field. One thing I want to talk to you about, you've always been, in the time I've known you, such a great communicator. I've learned so much from you personally. How did you handle difficult conversations within the training room? Maybe you had to give a player bad news that there was a season-ending injury or surgery was needed or something like that. How did you handle approaching those conversations and communicating kind of bad news to players throughout your career?
Well, it's an interesting question, Sam, because each player is different. So it's you have to understand the player first and what he's kind of made out of. Mm-hmm. Some players you have to kind of come in slowly and cautiously and say, unfortunately, there's some difficult things we need to deal with here, and other players you just say, you blew out your ulnar collateral ligament. We got to fix it, and they would say, okay, let's get it done. And there's others that would actually sometimes break down and cry, and different things. It was interesting. I'll tell you another quick little story. Ozzie Guillen and Tim Raines had a collision in left field, and Ozzie blew out his medial collateral ligament, his PCL and ACL, all three of them. And he's laying on the X-ray table in the room, and I'm telling him, Ozzie, looks like you're done for the season. And Ozzie is a pretty emotional guy, and he took it kind of hard because he just loves to play. And in walks Mr. Reinsdorf, and he tells Ozzie, I just picked up your option. So that made it easier because he knows that he's loved, and we just have to just get him back. When the owner comes in and says he picked up your option for next year, that makes it. There's all kinds of different scenarios that come. some players, of course, nowadays, and even back in my later part of my career, when things were starting to change a lot, all wanted second and third opinions. Early in the career, they all went kind of with our team doctors. And because, if you think about it, Sam, who cares more about you than your own people? You're not a number. You're not, just another patient. Our team doctors, who were all good surgeons and everything, took very good care of our players, and our players felt, very loved and taken care of all the way through. Yeah. And we didn't have too many second opinions, only on an opinion that was a problem that was complicated. More if it was cut and dry problem, we took care of it. If it was a complicated, we reach out to get a little bit of a second opinion on different things. Yeah. But nowadays, and even like I said, the latter part of my career, everybody wants second and third opinions, and a lot of them, end up going to a doctor off-site, a neutral doctor, which is fine, but it puts the athletic training staff at a disadvantage because it's not an in-house situation.
Right. Yeah, totally makes sense. And throughout your career, Herm, another quick question for you. Was there any player you worked with that you can remember whose career may have been impacted by injuries, who you were really high on, you thought was going to have a great career, and injuries kind of derailed what they had going on?
Well, the one that comes to mind the most that we helped, Ellis Burks. I don't know if you remember that name or not. Yeah. We got him, and he had nothing but back issues. And I think the Red Sox let him go, and we picked him up, and we put him on a regimented back program that I thought and we thought would really help him with his problems. And he stayed healthy. He started to stay healthy with us, and he became an incredible ball player for us. He left us for free agency, and he had an illustrious career and made a ton of money after he left us. So that's one, and that sticks out the most to me, that we really helped a lot.
Sure. And I'm sure there were so many people on the opposite side of the spectrum whose career you helped elongate and gave them a second chance to play, which is obviously the most important role of the athletic trainer, is keeping guys on the field. Herm, the White Sox now have an awesome head athletic trainer, James Kruk. I know you spent time with James. Talk about him and his new role, and kind of not new, but stepping into the role after you. How you helped kind of mentor James, and kind of what you think of him as the athletic trainer of the White Sox.
Well, Crucky is an incredible guy. I love him to death. Yeah. I actually feel like he's like a son to me in many ways. He was in our minor league system. I'd always bring him and everybody else up in a rotation to spend time with us in big league camp. And him and Josh Fallon always stood out to me. I mean, you could see that they had a high level of potential, and kind of groomed them to take charge sometimes. Like when they came to camp and a guy was hurt, I would just say, Crucky, go ahead and treat him up. I wouldn't I'd let him do his thing, and I would watch, and I could see how he handled things. And I knew that I honestly, and as I was going towards the end of my career, I figured that it was going to be a toss-up between Crucky and Josh. And I think maybe Crucky had a little more experience than Josh did. Sure. And it turned out, and they have a great a great staff there. And Kimbo was there also. He's wonderful, and I love him to death too. We have a lot of fun with him. But they have a wonderful staff, and I'm so proud of them. And I think the world of all three of them, you know. And we have a reunion coming up in June for the 1983 team that I'm going to, and I look so forward to seeing those guys in the training room and spending a few minutes with them. I drove down to Miami. I live in Palm Beach County here in Palm Beach. When they came down to play the Marlins at the beginning of the season, and I drove down to Miami and spent a couple hours with them down there, and was so excited to see them, and enjoyed visiting them and seeing those guys grow, and Crucky grow in his role. And Josh is just tremendous. I mean, I reach out to Josh frequently with different issues that might come up or whatever. I still get a phone call from a salesman that wants to sell him something. And I said, well, you're talking to the wrong guy. And I kind of lead him on to Josh, you know. Josh is wonderful also. I mean, I hold all three of them in extremely high regard.
Yeah. Great people for sure leading the organization there now. And one thing that I think, you know, you kind of mentioned is staying close with the athletic trainers and that brotherhood. And that's a big part of PBATS. The group that you were, you know, so involved with, and just as a leader and one of the kind of athletic trainers paving the way. Talk about your relationship with the Society of PBATS all those years, what it meant to you, what it meant to get together at the winter meetings every year and see all the guys and women in athletic training, and kind of how that impacted your career throughout your time.
Well, you know, I was one of the charter members of PBATS, and we went through some hard times. I don't know if you probably know the story of that.
Yeah.
We tried to get together and create PBATS, and actually the word got out that we wanted to unionize, and we were all kind of scared for our jobs because that wasn't the case. We always wanted to create an educational society, but you know, the owners were kind of looking at it like we wanted to create a union. So we feared for our jobs. And we met in secret places and rooms that nobody would see at the winter meetings. And so, you know, I mean, I have a special place in my heart for PBATS because I am one of the charter members. My job was threatened for PBATS. So, I mean, I hope that all these new young guys truly understand what we went through to get PBATS off and running, and it was quite a experience. I still have great feelings. I'm the one that I'm sure you're aware of the raffle in spring training.
Oh yeah.
I get the Rolex watch from a friend of mine who's a jeweler, and they also get the second watch for the jeweler from a jeweler. And I also was initiated the PBATS rings that we give PBATS trainers when they leave under certain criteria. You know, they have to spend so many years in the major leagues, and I think they even created a minor league one with a number of years as well. But I'm the one that got that one going. The guy that's the jeweler is here in Chicago, and he still makes them and he's probably one of my dearest friends. So you could see I had quite a relationship with PBATS, you know. I was on the Hall of Fame committee, which was running into brick walls all the time. Things have gotten a little bit better, and I think we do have a little space in the Hall of Fame now. But talk about running into brick walls. It was it was not even brick walls. It was solid concrete walls, you know, and we just kept bouncing off. But finally, you know, we got it done. Rick Griffin and Stevie Donahue, and you know, we did at Mark Laton. It
Yeah.
was, and it was quite an event to try to get them to buy into what we were trying to do. We didn't want a lot of space in the Hall of Fame. We just wanted to hang a plaque on a wall. And
Mm-hmm.
you would think it was an act of Congress to do it. So it
No,
was difficult.
it's a testament to the hard work of you and Mark Laton, Stevie Donahue, Rick Griffin. I was actually there when the plaque went up in the Hall of Fame library of the PBATS Hall of Famers, which is really amazing and definitely needed there as you guys are so important to the success of the game and the players, and I think everyone is now knows that. Well, Hermie, this year was pretty cool for you. You worked the World Baseball Classic. Talk about what it was like being back in the training room, working with the guys back around the game.
Well, I was blessed to be able to work my second World Baseball Classic for the Netherlands, and it's a special place for me because I was born in Amsterdam. So I wanted really desperately to work with Team Netherlands. They may not have been the best team on the field in a lot of ways, but it was a special thing for me to be with my homeland. And I still speak Dutch. So I was able to speak Dutch to a lot of the people there. And I created so many new friends that live in the Netherlands, that I have a place to go when I want to go to Amsterdam and Rotterdam and different things like that. So we had a very good team. Our pitching was a little bit difficult, but we had some very good players. Albies was there, and Bogarts, and unfortunately our left fielder got banged for some drug issues. But we had a very good team. We didn't fare very well, unfortunately, and got eliminated in the first round. But talk about a wonderful experience and how classy everything was. Major League Baseball does a fantastic job in Miami. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better than they give us in there. They treated us so great. Facilities were good. We just couldn't ask for anything else.
It's such a great event, and I'm sure it was fun for you to reunite with some people and see some guys you worked with, and also make new friends, as you mentioned. So I'm sure it was an awesome experience there. Well, Hermie, to wrap up today, you've seen so many stadiums in so many cities. A couple questions for you. When you were with the White Sox for all those years, or even the Yankees, did you have a favorite stadium to sit in the dugout and watch a game from?
I always had enjoying time in Seattle. I love that ballpark in Seattle. The way it's built, the roof, but it's not enclosed. You always get that good feel there. The fans are great there. Everything the facilities are good there. The Seattle downtown, when I was there, was spectacular. I think it's changed a little bit now. But when I was going there, it was just fantastic city and everything else. Kansas City was always wonderful to go to. Great facilities, great people working there to help us out. Yankee Stadium, I have a place in my heart for Yankee Stadium. So many people are still there that work there worked there when I was there. So it's always a nice reunion to go there. But Baltimore was wonderful to go to. There's some that you don't miss not going to, like Oakland. Is not the best, but it's still the major leagues, and you treat it the same way as you treat any other stadium.
Absolutely.
You go in there and you say, this is the major leagues, and you do everything a major league way.
That's right. And speaking of the major league way, as we've said a number of times, 4+ decades for you. For the younger listeners out there who are maybe athletic training students in college or a first-year athletic trainer in the minor leagues or even the big leagues for that matter, after such a long career, what's your best piece of advice for someone out there who wants to last as long as Herm Schneider did in the game of baseball?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I feel is to learn what not to do, not so much what to do. Mm-hmm. And for a young trainer, that's along with some older trainers and you know, God gave us 2 eyes, 2 ears, but only 1 mouth. So listen and watch and speak softly. You know, I think that's very important to learn, you know, to pay attention, to learn, and, you know, try to get around as many older trainers as you can, because everybody's got a little different technique and a way of going about things. And, you know, learn as much as you can, learn what not to do, but don't hesitate to do some things that, you know, you're capable of doing. Mm-hmm. Just think before you act, you know, sometimes. Right. I could go on for hours, Sam. So I don't want to rattle on. I'm trying to be cautious of your time.
No, that's great. And obviously so much great advice from you, amazing stories about your career. We really appreciate your time, Herm, and everything you've done for myself personally, for PBATS as a society, the game of baseball and athletic training as a profession. And obviously wish you best of luck in your days after baseball.
Well, thanks. Appreciate you. And you've always been good to me as well. Thank you and appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit PBATS.com. See you next time.